Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the DriveLife podcast by caravans.com. Today I'm here with podcast regular Sean and Paul Ripley from Driving Masters. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
It's been a while since we've done a podcast actually. It's felt like a long time, but we have been quite busy. You're fresh off a Europe tour. I am kind of fresh off a Europe tour, but it feels like a very long time ago now, although it wasn't. But yeah, it's been a busy time for the club side of what we do, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's. These times, these months in the year are always a busy time for us. But I just seem to think year on year, they just seem to get busier and busier.
I think it's been maybe a bit ambitious this year doing 3 Europe tours, but we're trying. It's the first two went well. The first one we did was I led that one with our ambassador Henesh, which was in the French Vosges region, the Vosges Mountains. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that was first time I've ever been there, and that was an awesome tour. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to come on that one next year, because really, really amazing area. Like obviously, there's more of the well-known routes that car groups do, but that one isn't, I don't think, that well-known in comparison. But the roads are absolutely amazing, and it was the first time actually on a Europe tour that we've stayed in the same hotel for multiple nights, which was also nice, a bit less tiring. So yeah, I really recommend that. We'll be adding that to the SUK calendar again next year. And then you were on the Alps tour, which is our a tour that we've run quite a few times before, wasn't it? How did that one go?
Yeah, disappointed at all, really. I mean, it's probably third year in a row since I've done that, and the route's not changed really that dramatically since we first did it, really. But the roads are still epic as always. It's quite a nervous element to it, because one of the key runs that we do is over a pass called the Suston Pass.
Yep.
It's one of the kind of the highest points of the route. It's an absolutely awesome going up and coming down the other side as well. But it literally only opened about 4 days before we.
Yeah,
before we
were checking the map. We were checking the maps and online every day, weren't we?
Unbelievable. Normally it opens. It's normally sort of early to mid-June. It opens up, but for some reason this year they literally left it to like the last day in June before they opened it up. Wow. And when you get up there, I was expecting to see it was like covered in snow and like kind of like only just literally freshly cleared out. But it looked like there were a bit of snow about, but it looked like it had been clear forever. But I imagine the maintenance teams and stores have probably got a lot of work on, every year clearing these things. They just leave that one to the last, with it being so high up really, and they've probably got to clear it away from boulders and whatever else is probably blocking the road. I imagine that's we think it's snow, but it's not necessarily just snow really. That makes it there. But the weather was a little bit variable. Pretty sort of rainy and damp on the first couple of days, but the days that we wanted it to be good, which is the ones where we're going up the main passes, the Furka Pass, obviously the Goldfinger road, and a few of the others there, it was clear, so we dropped on really, really well. And I know Josh and Harry and our media team, they loved it, because they actually got the shots that they wanted, whereas the previous year some of the areas that they wanted to get the shots in weren't. The weather wasn't really as what we wanted it to be. So I think we only had one incident on the trip, and it involved a drone. And the drone has made it back, but it's currently in recovery somewhere, I understand. It's gone quiet now. But no, a really good, a good group of people. A slightly smaller group this year than we've had in previous years, but that actually, in many ways, made it quite a bit more personal in terms of the trip, really. So means that I certainly had opportunity to spend more time with people, and it's a very good bonding experience. Definitely. Really. So great all round.
Yeah, absolutely. And on these tours, obviously we're leading a lot of cars, and we're always very conscious about safety and speed and how we best run that. And fortunately, no incidents this year other than the drone on either tours. But in our never-ending quest to make sure that we do keep things as safe as possible whilst keeping it enjoyable and spirited, we we reached out earlier in the year to a company called Driving Masters, who we'd seen crop up, I guess, on our social feeds and everywhere. And Paul from Driving Masters joins us today. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Totally my pleasure, Mark. Totally my pleasure. Yeah, and I really enjoy seeing the social feeds about SC UK, where you're going, and I can't believe how busy you guys have been. But some of the tours you run, and this very thin line between keeping it safe but keeping it enjoyable. It needs to be enjoyable. That's why people go on it. But at the end of the day, safety is the king. And say it's got to be safe. So it's that very thin dividing line where we make it suitable for both areas, really. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I've got to say that you're one of the standout personalities who talk to me about safety, because very few, especially when you're doing convoy runs, very few people even consider that, well, this is just cars following each other. It's absolutely not. But your concern about that has been a revelation, to be honest with you. And that what SC UK are about is so refreshing. And I love it. Obviously, that's what we do as a company. It's what I do personally. You know, obviously on the high performance courses that we run. But yeah, just a great overall scenario you have within the club. You know.
No, thank you. Yeah, I think we're just very conscious that, you know, a lot of our reputation and everything rides on, you know, we are doing something that just comes with risk, and you cannot remove that risk. But we just want to make sure that for our sake and for the sake of our members, we're doing it the best that we possibly can.
And it's managing that risk, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely managing that risk, and everybody's aware of that risk. But, you know, often on club events, risk is never spoke about. But, you know, as soon as you turn that ignition key and drive away, the risk start. You're in the risk zone. Yep. So it's great that you're also doing that, and, you know, and of course that's music to my ears. I will say, you know, fantastic. Yep. Well done, mate. Well done.
But yeah, so we reached out to you about, I guess, 6 months ago, and we're going to be looking at mainly two things initially, which is offer driver education and driver training for our members, but also for our ambassadors and our admin team who actually lead the drives. That's something that we want to be doing. Yep. But you're obviously currently operating in Driving Masters, and this is a fairly new venture under this brand, but you've had quite a history in the world of automotive. Where did it all start? How did you get involved in this?
It started, basically, I left school at 15 years old, no qualifications whatsoever, to become a professional musician. And I was quite a competent professional drummer. I've been playing since I was 5 years old, very musical family. And once again, I got into the education of life at 15 years old. Playing in nightclubs, cabarets, recording, pop groups, you know, touring bands, that kind of thing, big bands, and doing live shows on a nightly basis at the top ranks and the meccas around the UK. And I earned a lot of money. I joined a well-known group, which I've been told not to mention it, so I don't. A well-known group, and we made a serious amount of money. And when I was 17, I passed my test just after my 17th birthday, got into cars in a big way, and it became a real new thing for me. And I got straight into a Cooper S, a Mini Cooper S, followed by Lotus Cortina, which I actually wrote off. Sorry about that. And back to Lotus Cortina, and I can remember being in hospital where the police came to interview me about 5 days after the crash. It's not an accident. An accident is without apparent cause, but it's always a crash, by the way. But so they come and interview me about the crash and said to me, what speed were you doing around that bend, Paul? And I said, what's the speed limit on the road? He said, it's 40. I said, I would probably doing about 40 then. He says to me, young guy, Lotus Cortina, what's the connection? I said, I just live and breathe driving. It's absolutely awesome. And he said to me at the time, you know, we have an open night every 2 weeks at the police driving school in West Yorkshire. Why don't you come along? Bang, that was it. Yep. And they had a skid pan there. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Just amazing. You know, best fun I've ever had with my clothes on, but moving on. And but absolutely, that's what got me into it, got me into driving. And I went through a whole series of plethora of like excellent cars, Morgans, 4.4+8, E-Type Jaguars, V12 E-Types. Bought myself a D Tommaso, and over the years I've owned 36 Porsche 911s, 9 Ferraris, and I just love 911s because not necessarily the new ones, but the old ones were a car you needed respecting. If you're making serious progress, you need, because they were the original Widowmakers, weren't they? Sure. You know, where people just lift off on a corner on the wet and the car would just spin out. You know, so I like the cars that demand ultimate respect, because it gets you engaged, it gets you involved in the drive, and that's why I really enjoy cars like that.
Sorry, can I just step in?
Yeah.
This all came from having an accident at 40 miles an hour in a Lotus Cortina?
Yes.
So if you hadn't had that accident...
Your Honour, sorry.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Wow.
I don't know what happened, but I mean, I got so into cars, and I used to go practice driving every day. And I had a little business at the time. I sold that business, and I decided to become a quote-unquote high-performance driving instructor. I didn't realise what the process you had to go through to get to that point, and the qualifications and accreditations you needed. And I took literally 2 years out of my life. I didn't need to earn the money because I had pots of money in the bank, as it were. And I took 2 years out where I used to do theoretical study in the morning and then go and practice in the afternoon. And of course, living where we do in Yorkshire, we have some incredible driving roads. And it was just a joy. Anyway, I wanted to become the most qualified, the most credited driver trainer on planet Earth. And I went back through a 10-year process of getting every qualification I could. I wasn't too happy with, off the record, I wasn't too happy with the advanced driving organisations at the time. So I set up my own advanced driving organisation. I then set up something to do with the data, the download from data on the telematics that were fitting to fleet drivers and to young drivers. What are people doing with that data? This kind of thing, and got involved in that in quite a big way. And then I met up with David Edmonston, who's the guy from Pistonheads. He set Pistonheads up. Okay. And David said to me, I'm such a keen driver, you're the driving guy, shall we do something together? The timing was perfect for me, getting younger every day, of course. And that was it. That's what came out with Driving Masters, and we've just won a contract with an OEM for doing their chassis development guys, ride and handling engineers, the test drivers, steering suspension teams, that kind of thing, and doing all the high-performance driver training, primarily on the road, but then off-road at places like Mire and Fen End and Millbrook, that kind of thing, which is just music to my ears. And I just love those type of courses, where you go off-road and you really extend the car, extend the drivers to learn about another elements of things that they never knew about before. What happens when you do this, and what happens when you do that, and it's just great. And it's not work. It's never been work, Sean. It's always just my passion for it, my love for it. That's never altered in the last 50 plus years, really. But it's just great. It's just a great occupation, and I love it. I live it and breathe it.
You can see that. It's very passionate.
Oh, I just love it, mate. Yeah. Knock on, yeah.
So in terms of the driver training stuff that you focus on, I know that how to put this, a lot of the, like you said, you weren't happy with some of the advanced training academies and companies like that. They potentially focus on things that aren't maybe necessarily useful for the real world in terms of like fast driving, or I own a high performance car. How do I respect it but still have fun on the road?
Yeah.
Is a lot of what you do more focused around the real world elements in terms of driver training.
Yeah, I mean, what we've done with Driving Masters, I wanted it to be a modern approach where we had our own driving tests, advanced driving tests, so we could accredit the drivers, we could train the drivers. I mean, the road driving, the advanced driving is the most challenging for any driver because of the ultimate changes every 2 seconds on the road, or a second on the road. Things change automatically. We can make somebody into Michael Schumacher within a couple of hours on the circuit. You can teach them all they need to know about how to take corners, that kind of thing, the approach to the corner itself, the apex, and then the exit. What do you do? And gradually build them up into becoming really quite proficient on the circuit. The advanced car control we look at as well is the cause recognition recovery of all skids. You're turning the traction control off, and it's front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive. Is it an EV? Is it a four-wheel drive? And all these different type of drivetrain layouts that people have, but they don't really know what to do when they lift off mid-corner and the back end just steps out. What do they do about it? So a proving ground is an ideal environment for learning this stuff. And for getting the feel of what happens to the car when I do that. One of the things that everybody loves is how to do an ABS and a lane change at 70 miles an hour, motorway speed. So, you know, instead of looking and you hit the brakes at 70 mile an hour because you've got stationary traffic in front of you, but then you notice the lane to the left is free, then you brake and you steer. But how to do that, if you do it 4 or 5 times, you become a natural at doing it. Oh, this is easy. First time they do it, they go, whoa-ee, you know, but then they get into it and then they know how to do it. So it's just going to save a crash in the future, knowing how ABS works, how to get the best out of that ADAS system, as they call it now. But fast cars need more discipline. The faster car you have, the more you're still going to drive at 30 and a 30 limit. You're still going to drive at 20 and a 20 because that's where you're going to pick up your points. That's not what we're all about. I mean, I've driven for 58 years, I think it is, something like that. And I've had a clean license for 58 years. How come? And I've had all these cars. How come? Because it's where you do it. It's where you extend the car, you know, and it's generally back road driving, B road driving, but you've got to have a certain amount of skill to drive these cars. It's a significant pace, you know. When you get to the posted speed limits, basically, you're on it. That's what you do. And I tilt down the motor at 70 miles an hour, just like the best of them. But I'm one of the people who just gets overtaken. And we've brought into the thing quite recently as well, something that's hugely important called mindset. And the attitudinal stuff, the behavioural, the emotional stuff that drivers go through, and the triggers that set these things off with drivers. And at the end of the day, tempering that down so it has no effect on your emotions, the way you think and feel and act and react. It's about safety. You put the safety in the equation. That's what we're about.
I'm saying it's not just a skill, sort of learning skill that you're teaching. It's also teaching people how to react from an emotional stage as well.
It's a mindset thing. I mean, basically, there's skill, there's knowledge acquisition, which they all get. I mean, develop a whole new plethora of skills that they can use and enjoy using those skills on these great cars that they have, you know. And then knowledge acquisition, well, I never knew that. Well, you get to know about that. But the mental side of it, the emotional stability that drivers need to drive these fast cars and knowing when to do it and where to do it, then you've got the situation of how to do it and why you're doing it. So it's all about the big why, isn't it? You know, why you're doing this kind of thing and why you're buying these fast cars and that. But there's not a great deal more pleasure in having a really, really supercar, sat in a supercar driving on a day like today. Just one of the most incredible experiences anybody can have, especially if you're a driving enthusiast, you know, like we have here in the club, you know.
Yeah, definitely. It's an interesting one, the whole mindset thing, I think, because especially for us when we run multiple night tours, I think what we have seen in the past is almost let's say a new member who we've not met before, and they come on a driving tour and they don't know what to expect, and we don't know what to necessarily expect of them. And you kind of, in a sense, I think we see their driving usually evolve for the better throughout the course of the trip. Yeah. Often everyone's, I guess, so eager on day one to set off and have fun and get involved, and sometimes we just need to temper it down a bit, calm things down a bit. Or at least, you know, politely potentially have a word to say, like, look, like, we need to, you know, that bit of driving we weren't particularly happy with. Let's just keep it a bit steadier and keep it sensible. But I think, like you say, keeping egos in check and everything, especially when it comes to I've got the fastest supercar on this tour or whatever it might be, is something that's really important, and it's critical for our business as well to make sure that we run that.
Yeah, I mean, the place to extend these cars is the circuit or a proving ground, and get to know what the car does, how it does it, and then what inputs you're doing. And it's building a relationship between your inputs to the car and what happens to the car with these inputs you put in, that steering, acceleration and braking. And the more steering angle you have applied, the less you can do down there with your feet. You know, less acceleration. But I mean, now we've got all the modern ADAS systems on the cars. Before, if you had a load of steering angle on and you braked, you'd lock up. And we used to get into cadence braking, that kind of thing. People say, what's cadence braking? But you know what I'm saying? But that's going back many, many years. But now ABS, but a lot of people don't know how. I mean, you know, I do a lot of these talks, as you're aware. And I'd say to them, like, ABS braking, who knows how to brake, how to use ABS properly? And no one puts their hand up. It's quite extraordinary. Well, you just brake. But how do you brake? What do you need to do? What action do you need to take if you see an emergency in front of you? And it's this kind of thing. It's just opening up. It's kind of opening up their understanding of the cars that they've got and how these things work to their advantage, so they can take more advantage of it. But get them on a track. You know, I mean, if you get, let's say, 4 or 5 cars on a track, it's really, really good. You know, you have a lead car, and then eventually the driver, once he knows the ropes and that kind of and the rudiments of driving on a track properly, and then these advanced car control things. There's something called when we do a slalom. Everybody knows what slaloms are, but then we have something called staggered gates, where you're going really quite quickly, second or third gear. You're turning in, you're lifting off, or you're creating lift-off oversteer, and then what do you do about that? Traction control switched off, of course, but they need to know when it's switched off, what used to happen, and then when it's switched on, what the car actually does.
Yep.
What help it gives you in these environments and that. But yeah, I mean, on a road, it needs ultimate discipline, and it needs an ultimate skill to have that discipline in place and not think, oh, this is totally boring. No, I mean, give yourself a round of applause if you hit that 30 sign at 30. And when we go out on driving courses, we'll have somebody in a super, super fast car, and we'll see a 30 zone 500 yards up the road. And I'll just say to him, let's hit the 30 zone, that 30 without braking. Oh, okay then. And we might do a 5-mile trip on a back road without braking. And it's all about developing throttle control. They love it. And I love it, because I never knew that. It's always like accelerate, brake. No, it's not like that at all. So it's right, reading the road, advanced observation, advanced planning, visual scanning skills like a radar, what's going on, what we're going to pick up and what I'm going to do about what I'm seeing.
And on as a bonus, you're saving on brake pads as well. And let's set ceramic discs, they're not cheap these days, are they? So yeah.
I mean, when I've come here, I probably hit I don't know, how far do I live from here, 20 miles, whatever, and I probably hit the brakes 3 times.
Yeah.
I don't mean hit the brakes, I mean like, you wouldn't know I'm braking.
Yeah.
And that smoothness and that flow, creating the flow, so like turning a tap on, and it's flowing like water, and your drive just completely flows. And the faster you're driving, circuits, proving grounds, you need that smoothness with everything that you do. It's great.
Last year I was fortunate enough to visit Millbrook, and had a driver kind of experienced a taste a day, so to speak. And in the I drive an R8, so obviously four-wheel drive, you know.
Yes.
Fairly stable in terms of a car. But what the thing that was quite surprising for me is there's a section at Millbrook, the bowl, I think they call it. It's just a constant motorway circle, yeah. So in kind of lanes 1 and 2, which are the kind of the slower lanes, the instructor I was with asked me to kind of just basically change lane, just maintaining a constant speed, which it might have been sort of 30, 35 or something like that. So you kind of change it, and they said, right, I want you to change it quickly, do it quicker. And you're obviously changing, you're jerking the steering wheel a lot more sharp than you would do in a normal environment.
Yeah.
But to prove that the car could still, it would still go, and you kind of think, wow, and you're obviously doing this in a safe environment. I think at one point we were kind of doing it really, really quick, and the car was still stable. And then one thing he asked me to do, he says, right, next time I want you to do it, I just want you to lift off the throttle, obviously changing the weight distribution of the car.
Absolutely.
And the car was all over the place. I think, whoa, and that's just for me was the biggest learning experience I took away, is that when people are braking to corners, panicking, lifting off the throttle, literally how that they're panicking essentially accentuates the situation they're in. Whereas if they steer it out, they potentially wouldn't be in anywhere near the problem that would.
I mean, I did for 5 years at Aston Martin, doing all their driver training, all the workforce, the people that drove product, and also test drivers that they had, and development engineers, this kind of thing. And we spent 2 hours at Millbrook every day, 5 days a week, for about 4 years. Millbrook there's no runoff areas on the Alpine route.
No.
Not well for me. I don't dig that.
Yeah.
But the high-speed bowl, I let them drive around there at 175. We had this was back in the mid-90s, and they had a Virage with Vantage running gear, no ABS, just like a mega training car. 580 brake horsepower it was. A fantastic training car when it was damp. And it was, we call it a training mule. That's what they call it in the industry. But awesome car, because it was a super difficult car to drive and make progress. And at Millbrook, I'd let them drive around the high-speed boat on 75 because that's probably the first and last time they'll ever do that. And and we used to go down there. I spent 5 years at Lotus as well doing all their people. But yeah, we used to go to Millbrook about once a month on the inner handling circuit.
Yeah.
You can drop a wheel off there. You could be in big trouble. But it's learning about those environments and what happens when you suddenly do something to a car that the car's not expecting, and what's the car going to handle like. And it's getting on a proving ground where you can do that. Not necessarily the high-speed boat at Millbrook, because there's very few areas you can do that, but on an open piece of tarmac, it's just heaven. It's just heaven made, where you can do anything you want. I mean, I went to, this is quite funny actually, but back in 1991 to 93, I spent a lot of time over with Hyundai in South Korea, and training all their test drivers, okay? And it was really quite funny. And their idea of a proving ground was a 2 mile square piece of tarmac. That was their proving ground. And not one cone, there's nothing laid down, no paints, nothing.
Perfectly flat.
Perfectly flat.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was their idea of a proving ground. But anyway, at the end of the day, we took all their guys down to Miraval, which is in the south of France, owned by Goodyear. And inside the 3 and 3/4 mile track, there was a wet track with different, what they call mews, different surfaces, right, and different levels of water. It was just the most astonishing place for people to understand, dry and wet handling things with the same car. Front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive. And we needed to train these guys day in, day out, day in, day out. Of course, we're in the south of France, like weather like this. It was just the most incredible time ever. And we came back up and did the Nürburgring for about 3 weeks, every single day, just pounding these cars out. But great learning experience. And then they all came back to Hethel and went on the Hethel test track at Lotus and that, Just great times. And because you love it, it's not work. It's all about driver improvement. I'm not here to chastise anybody. I don't do that. We coach the best out of drivers and just get the best out of them so they have a really enjoyable day with us, that kind of thing. That's what Driving Masters is all about, And we're operating nationwide now. And we have 22 of the best instructors in the UK working with us, and they're putting my badge on it. These guys and these ladies are really, really good. And, we need coverage down South London and in Wales as well. Some great driving roads in Wales, by the way. Whoa. But anyway, but yeah, that's Driving Masters. That's what we're all about. And my experience running, businesses for the last 45 years, I mean, I've built and sold 3 businesses up, so I've been kept okay financially. This is probably my last hurrah in the industry, but my love for it is just, I just don't ever want to stop. My wife says, "When are you going to retire?" Excuse me, but I can't retire. I just have this passion for what I do. Anyway, harping on a bit. Sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all. No, it's great to see the enthusiasm, and I'm sure that shows every time somebody steps in the car with you, and that's what people want. They want to know somebody that they're learning with, somebody who lives and breathes it. So absolutely. You mentioned a few bits from your previous careers in terms of Aston Martin and stuff. Have there been any other highlights that you can think of in terms of stuff you've done in the past?
I mean, yeah, every day is a highlight, to be honest with you, Mark. Every day is different. You get different drivers sat in the car. Obviously, it's like an Aston with a Lotus. So one driver, one coach, as it were. Instruction, the thing about, there's a big difference between instruction and coaching.
Yep.
And coaching, you're generally asking questions. They know the answers because some of these guys, they are incredibly talented behind the wheel of a car. The guys at Lotus, they had this ride and handling department. They were just professors of their occupation. They were just so dynamically good at everything that they did. And I'm supposed to take them out and teach them something? Excuse me. But, like, to build up to a point where I wanted to be the governor, I wanted to be the best, I used to, take a hike down to Bruntingthorpe in Leicester. And I used to have a little cupboard there with sets of wheels and tyres. I used to go scrub 2 sets of tyres off. So, and there's a chap called Mike Franey now, but I don't know whether he's still with us or not, but super guy. And he wasn't very good at road driving, and I wanted to learn far more about car control, on the limit car control, over the limit car control, bringing it back into the under the limit stuff and that. I used to take him out on the road in the morning, and then we'd spend the afternoon on proving ground. And he had me power sliding 140 mile an hour on quite abrasive, like Elverton used to be a really abrasive surface, and then being able to do that. But, then we had Cozzies, M5s and stuff like that. But, I like cars that, like I said before, you need to respect them. But to learn the skill, I did this for months on end. So no matter what I was thrown into, I'd have some answer for these guys at Lotus who were just incredibly talented people, And so you have to be pretty damn good at what you're doing for people to respect you. It takes you, how long I've been doing it, 47 years. It takes you 47 years to build a reputation, but potentially 47 seconds to lose it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's something that we kind of worry about in terms of
Indeed.
We 5-6 years under our belt of running tours, and we want to just make sure that we keep running them in the right way. It's something that I guess we battle with every year, but I think we do our best at the moment. It's going well.
But it's great because you're one of the clubs that actually look after that and recognise that's a risk and it's an issue. And then with these drivers with the fast cars, and especially when they join you, you're not quite sure of what they're like as a character, what discipline is, just like how good they are behind the wheel of a car, and this kind of thing. They want to prove themselves. I'm faster than you, and there's this whole euphoria that builds up within drivers. I'm faster than you. I'm better than you, because I've got a faster car, and mine's 754 brake horse. Yours is only 650, mate. A joke. And it's just this thing about, but by talking to them. And especially having these talks and presentations, great way of getting a message across about what the club's all about. Probably the word tolerate is wrong, but at the end of the day, we need to understand that we have certain parameters that we need to stay within that space, and that's what we're about.
Yeah, definitely, and it's also caught us out the other way as well. Maybe in the last couple of years, in that. If we run tours usually in multiple groups, there'll probably be a difference in pace to suit different driving styles. But often we might have a new member sign up, and they'll sign up with a really tasty car, and you'll think you'll make the wrong assumption in that. They'll probably want to be in the let's say the spirited group, and then all of a sudden, no, they're more than happy to be sort of a back marker going along at a very steady pace. And it's all about just managing that, because it's a challenge, always a challenge at our end, whereby, let's say if we do a tour, we're wanting to roughly have the group split equally. That's something that it helps just in terms of management when it comes to things like getting split up at traffic lights, how many radio distance as well in terms of the range and stuff. So it's a really difficult thing to manage, and we're constantly, I guess, evolving on that side. But hence the reason why we're engaging with Driving Masters.
Yeah, so. At the end of the day, one thing you probably could do is just take a video in this situation here where you've got everything set up. Just let me talk to them for 2 minutes in a video, and when they join, the video automatically goes out and it's branded, all that kind of thing. But you just sort of say what the club's all about, what the club is there for, what the enjoyment you're going to get out of it. End of the day, we have we have to manage that risk, and everybody knew when you come in, what is the kind of risk that they're aware of, what we're here for, and the processes we have in place to ensure that the risk doesn't escalate. It's like when you hazard recognition, for argument's sake, hazard perception. We don't want to say, it's a hazard. I want to dig down a lot deeper than that on a driving course. What type of hazard is it? Is it potential danger, or is it an actual threat to safety? Mm-hmm. Can it move? Mm-hmm. Is there another area of unpredictability into that? And this all relates to the speed that you're driving to that hazard at. And this is when you really start looking into driving, these things like, I never thought about that. And the whole day is full of, I never thought about that. And they come away like thinking, this is amazing. And then we want them to go out and do self-assessment, self-analysis of their own performance behind the wheel of a car. And that's what the mindset thing comes in, you know. And it's just another level. I love it.
Checking for hazards is another thing quite high up our list, given last night some a kamikaze sheep decided to take out one of the cars on our drive near Blakey Ridge. But anyway, that's a different story.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.
I'm guessing over the years you've obviously had thousands of people sit in the driver's seat as you've trained. Have there been any standout performances, good and bad, that you've any experiences you've had there? Anyone who was without naming any names beyond help when it came to driver training?
Yeah, I mean, you know, doing driver training almost on a daily basis, 5 days a week, for all these years, and with some quote unquote experts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what is an expert, you know? Anyway, but we used to do a lot of training with young motoring journalists. And a sponsor was, I can't see who the sponsor was, I'm not allowed to, but they sponsored it and supplied cars for us, this kind of thing, you know. And there are some, you know, they all came to me. And there was, you know, people like Vicky Butler-Henderson, Steve Fowler from Auto Express, James Mills, you know, it was a great little driver. But there's some of these guys, like, once again, just, dare I say, big testicles, no brains.
Mm-hmm.
and that was the problem, you know. I nearly said balls then, didn't I? But, you know, you know what I'm saying. But basically, it's all about this mindset thing again, the attitude and the approach to it all, you know. But I mean, some of the greatest drivers, I've sat with some most incredible drivers and I've watched them and I've learnt from them. I don't want to tell them that, of course, but come on, I'm like a sponge. If I can get something off a driver, I'll use that and I'll practice that.
Absolutely.
You know, and every time I go out in the car, just coming here this morning, this is going to be the best drive I've ever driven. And I'm on that case and it never stops. And that's what I want people to get across to people. You can become an amazing driver and everything is within you, but it's got to come from you.
I think it's interesting, obviously, from a club point of view, from what I'm seeing. I'm sure you'll agree with me this, Mark, is that we seem to have, particularly when we get a lot of new members come on board, and some of them are coming with absolutely some amazing cars, but we're very quickly sort of form an opinion after being on a drive that you know we see that a lot of these people are not getting anywhere near the potential out of these cars, and obviously, you know, because potentially if it's the first supercar as well, they've come from driving, you know, a modest car and then jump into something that's got a lot of power but still drive it the same, because they don't use it any different. They kind of, quite often they can't use it for the family, you know, run to the shops because it's not big enough. So they're having to find excuses to use the car, like, oh, I'll go and pick up the takeaway or something like that. So they're really, unless they're going on these driver experience days or in a club, they're not getting opportunity to drive these cars at the capability. And it's really good when we see, you know, drivers that, you know, so when they come and start off, you know, coming on drives with us, how we see the pace and the confidence sort of grow, you know, throughout the kind of the weeks, years and months that do events with us, and we get rewarded from seeing that ourselves. So you yourself must be, you know, it explains why you're so passionate, because, you know, it's a great feeling, you know, seeing that development in people.
I mean, we generally only have 1 day with them. You get the odd person, specifically chauffeurs for some reason, right? They'll want to book a 2 or 3 day course. You can turn somebody in 3 days. Holy moly! I mean, if you have 3 days with one driver, what you can get out of him is just incredible. What we have to do is to give them a rounded overview of the time with us, so they can take that away and work on it, and hopefully come back in 3 or 4 months. 2 days, man, just like mega. 3 days, oh, I'm praying. It's because, you know, but it's not cheap. It's, you know, we are potentially one of the most expensive, but do you want a Mini or do you want a Rolls Royce? And when you're dealing with these really hypo cars, we don't want people to be overconfident. We want to be confident in their abilities to handle this car at a set speed at a given time on any given road. But this is where the skill comes in: observations, planning, anticipation, awareness. There's a whole plethora of things that we go into. But if you put you know, a sign up, so we're going to do a mindset seminar. What's all that about? I don't need that rubbish. That's the key to it all. And over my 47 years I've been here, getting the mindset right is the key to it all. You know, because I have, all right, dare I say myself, incredible skills. My knowledge acquisition is just like, it's never full, but I want to extend it. But getting that attitudinal and behavioural thing and the emotional stability into the car, no matter what anybody does, they can do what they want when I'm around. There's no reaction what for me. You know what I'll do? I'll put the safety into the situation, because that's what I love doing. They don't know what I've just done for them. But, you know, I'll back off and give him somewhere to go. So he's overtaking and I've got through an oncoming lorry, and I'll give him somewhere to go. I'll help him out. He's no idea what safety is about, because if he knew what safety is about, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing. So I'm there to help them, and not sort of say, what's this joker all about? And I'll teach him a thing or two. We're not going there. That's not what driving's all about. You're never going to see the guy again. And more importantly, you never know who you're dealing with.
Yes. Yeah.
It could be an accountant, it could be a barber, it could be a psychopath. Don't even go there. Just keep back off it. Put the safety into the equation. Love it. Thank you.
But it's too easy when we're driving to see the red flag to a bull, isn't it? And get the red mist comes down. That's the phrase I was looking for. The red mist comes down. So it's, you know, you've got to find ways, adjust your mental approach to rein that in. Yeah,
you have, and it's interesting because I'm thinking about it. I mean, I've had a lot of situations where I you know, on motorways and things like that, I try and keep your speed reasonable. But you've always, whatever speed you do, you've always got someone up your ear end. And I'm kind of like, when I have those situations, I think, you know, I'd rather them be way in front of me than behind me. So there's no shame in literally just pulling across, just let them pass, just get where they need to be.
It's a mindset thing, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, but you can imagine some people, that's just how I process things myself, but you can imagine a lot of people, oh, he's not getting past me, you know, and that in itself will add that fuel to the fire, which is, it's only going to end one way, isn't it, really?
I mean, Sean, all you need is two unyielding drivers wanting the same bit of road space.
Yep.
We now have a fight on the roads.
Yeah.
And you'd never react like that if you were face to face.
Yeah.
It's only when you're in your tin box and you're segregated, but you don't know who you're dealing with again, and I'm not even going there. Get out of his way. Just let him have an accident somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's just controlling it. Once again, it's about this control thing, you know. And I think that after today's, you know, just this little talk we've had here for the last 35 minutes or whatever, people go away thinking like, I never thought of that. I'm going to give that a go. And I'm just going to back off. I mean, I'm the one that has this like separation distances.
Yep.
Time to react, all that stuff. I can see there's nowhere for me to go. If somebody wants to overtake me, even though there's nowhere to go, they're not seeing that. I'm seeing that. So I give them space to overtake me because I'm going nowhere. There's like 8 cars in a row and people drive in packs. If you ever notice, like in a really traffic congestion, there'll be 8 cars and a slight gap, and then there'll be 10 cars, slight gap, and then there'll be 5 cars. They all drive in a pack. I drive as a lonesome driver, all on my own. And I just control everything that's going on around me. If somebody comes in to challenge that, fine, bring it on. I love it because it makes me work more to help this person. Because he might be a psycho. I don't care. I just want to get home and have a great night out with my missus, you know, that kind of thing. And have a nice glass of wine and, you know, that kind of thing. That's what I'm about as a guy. And I'm like that pretty much it's not just about driving; it's about life, the way you live your life, you know. And I don't. I'm not a threatening guy. I'm just quite a relaxed, easygoing guy. But at the best of times, you know, the essence of having all this skill. I can remember years ago when Bruce Lee. We all remember Bruce Lee, right? Mm-hmm. You know, like someone said to him, you know, what's the point of learning all these amazing skills when you never use them? You just back off, let everybody do what they want to do to you. I says, when I'm prepared to defend, I have the skills to do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that is about positioning and use of speed. Do I surrender? Do I dominate? So this person, I'm going to take control of this because they don't know what control is all about. I do, and I'll control it for you. And it's, but these infinite, minute things, you probably won't know I'm doing it, but I know I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. And I'll just move it 2 foot to the right, so this happens. And it's just doing that. Oh, well, I was going to overtake, but there's not enough room to do it now. You bet.
Do you think one time in the future, when all the cars are interconnected, there'll be a message that comes up on people's dashboards that says, you've just been assisted by Paul Ripley?
That's the dream. That's the dream when Driving Masters is sponsoring Tesla or somebody. You never know.
But at the end of the day, you know, I mean, there's a lot to go at because end of the day, globally, we're killing 1.35 million people on the roads, globally, every year. Mm-hmm. If you think about that, I think in the UK it's at 1,700 people. It's 5 a day, something like that. How can we accept that as being okay? Mm-hmm. And we're not, because the whole format of training, from driver training, right from the novice drivers who start the training process and pass a driving test, they don't teach them to drive, they teach them to pass a driving test. Mm-hmm. That's where we are with it. And there's something on now about what they call graduated driving licenses, so that when youngsters pass the test, they're not going to be able to drive at night, they're not going to be able to drive with their mates, they can't drive when it's dark, or things like that going on. Now, I lived in Canada for several years and did a lot of stuff over in North America, which is another story about my life, but they had this graduated driving license system in Canada and it worked quite well. Over here, the whole curriculum and the whole training is categorically wrong. But it's run by driving instructors, not by experts. Mm-hmm. Now, there's all these people whose daughter's just been killed in a road crash. Suddenly they're now on the case of this needs changing, that needs changing because my daughter got killed or my son got killed. I understand all that, but nobody ever rings me and say, what do you think about this, Paul? Can I have some input from you?
It's an interesting topic, that, because generally in my understanding of these types of situations, the answer always seems to be speed kills, reduce the speed, and that seems to be the line that majority of authorities go. They're all for kind of reducing speed limits in different areas, in the sense that, you know, you can't increase the speed limits because more people will be affected. But is that the answer?
I mean, categorically not, because I mean primarily. They are reducing speed. Speed kills. It's the wrong speed in the wrong environment. Mm. And people over speeding in a certain environment because they can't see the problem that's taking place in front of them, and then bang, they hit it, and that's the problem. I think at the end of the day, the quite recent thing with Wales have gone to like blanket 20 mile an hour speed limits in built-up zones. Mm. They've taken away all the 30 limits. And the government has given, I think someone said 34 million to replace everything with 20 limits. Mm. And now they want to replace it back to 30 limits. And they're asking the government for some more money. 20 limits, you're not going to get people driving at 20. I don't give a monkeys who they are. They're not going to drive at 20 because it's impossible for them to do that. They don't have that discipline. Mm-hmm. And there's people right up your chuff. When you do that, well, what's up with him? They don't know it's a 20 limit. Mm. If it's got street lights, there's no signs, it's 30. Mm. It could be a 20, but you'll see a 20 sign. Mm. But they just don't know the rules of the road generally. But when you come out on a high-performance course, one of the things you do is drive slower. Well, I've never driven this slow before because you've never driven 13 or 30, but you will be doing on a course. That's what it's all about, getting that discipline injected into your mindset so that you carry it out. And it's called light and shade. Then we can use that performance. National speed limit sign comes up on a B road. Well, that's when they use performance of the car. They used to call it the GLF zone. The police used to call it the GLF zone. We won't go there. Go like.
Okay.
I can imagine, yeah. And that's what the car. It used to be called D-restricted back in a million years ago. My granddad told me about it, of course. But basically, yeah, the D-restricted zone, and we could really make some serious pace. But you've got to know what you're doing. And you've got to have this light and shade. See how to do something about it. You just cast it off, right? I want to dig deep into what you're seeing, and then what you're going to do about what you're seeing. Observations and planning. Once you get to know it. I mean, funnily enough, I did a talk quite recently with loads of high performance driving instructors in the United Kingdom, and am I any better than these guys? I actually have absolutely no idea, but I've had lots of experience. With lots of people. And they said to me, what do you think about when you're driving, Paul? What goes through your head? And I said, absolutely nothing. What do you mean nothing? It just happens. I never think about it. It just happens. It's automatic. But my God, if something comes in that needs attention, bang, you're on the case. But I don't think about anything because I've had so many years of perfecting it, if that's possible. There's just been an old saying, the perfect driver's never taken place and the perfect driver has never been born. If you can think about that and get it as near perfection as you can, when drivers are learning things, they need to go for progress, not perfection. They need to be consistent with what they're doing. And this is what we train development drivers, test engineers about, consistency. When they're going through, anyway, whatever.
No, it's super important, and alongside, obviously, we're going to be putting out some courses to members and ambassadors. But personally, I'm looking forward to booking a few courses, at least a few courses with you guys, and improving my driving, especially important for us as being lead drivers and having the mixture of car control and discipline and everything else. It's something we need to. Like you say, there isn't a perfect driver, and we make mistakes as lead drivers as well.
We need to sort your driving attitude out, Mark. That's what it is.
I know, I'm sorry. I'll stop tailgating you, but at least you let me by, so.
He's the boss.
So you mentioned, at the start of the podcast, you mentioned a few previous cars you've owned. I know you've had quite a history of car ownership. What have been a few of the standout highlights, over the years?
Over the years, yeah. I mean, this goes back a long time, Mark, and I'm not necessarily one for modern cars, which does everything for you, ADAS systems and all that kind of thing. I want to deal with it myself as a driver. I was just talking to Richard over there before the podcast, and excuse me, we're talking about Mark 1 Escorts and where he put a 2-litre Pinto engine into a Mark 1 Escort, beg your pardon. How good must that have been? Right power to weight ratio. And it's the simplicity of it that I like. It requires more involvement and more engagement from the driver. Excuse me, I've got a tickle in my throat. But basically, for me, there was I've had 3 2.7 Carrera RSs.
Well,
and the middle one, it was a pea green car. What a machine that was. And it was set up properly, with four-wheel alignment and everything was set up properly. What an amazing vehicle that was. Once again, no ABS on it, all that kind of stuff, And then I owned a Ferrari 355 GTS, which had the Nürburgring pack on it from the factory.
Beautiful
Manual, please God, manual, yeah. And just a lovely, lovely car.
That was the baby Testarossa, I think they used to call that one, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the sound of a Ferrari V8, there's not a lot to beat that, especially going through tunnels, of course, as we do, and we enjoy these kind of things. But I then sold a business, and I went to the factory. I was quite well in with the Ferrari UK guys and used to do a bit of training for them. Anyway, went to the factory and I ordered a brand new 360 Spider. I just sold it. I got, money in the bank. I can do that. So I bought this brand new 360 Spider, titanium Grigio, like dark metallic grey.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Manual. One of the first off the line. Spider it was, by the way, and one of the first off the line. And I went to pick it up at Maranello, and the wife was with me, and we had an E55 AMG at the time. Great motor that was. And one of the best motors the Mercedes have ever made is the C36 AMG.
Right.
What a mega motor that was. And it was like the gentleman's BMW M-powered vehicle, But I did 48, I don't know, went through 48 sets of tyres with that one car, doing demo drives in 10 months. I used to have a deal with Bridgestone, of course. Thank you, Mr. Bridgestone. Right, but so I used to go through. But anyway, whatever. But getting off subject a little bit. And I got that 360 Spider, and we stopped for an ice cream coming back. And it was a beautiful day like today. And my wife said to me, "What do you think to it?" Then I said, "Yeah, it's all right." "What do you mean it's all right?" "I want to go buy my 355 back." Now they only collected it 3 days earlier, so I thought. Right, and I knew the dealership that had bought it off me. And I rung the dealership and said, "I want to buy my 355 back. Just taking a deposit on it today." "No, I want to buy my 355 back. I'm just taking a deposit on it today, Paul. Can I have the guy's number? And I'll give him 10 grand not to take it." And he said to me, "We don't do stuff like that, Paul." I said, "Please, let me speak to the guy." Anyway, no go. That was no go. But I loved that car. It was just a great car. And I had Dinos, 308 GTBs, GTSE 328s, 512 BB, just a complete monster of a car. I mean, you have to be Arnie Schwarzenegger just to change gear. The clutch was just ridiculous in it, And because of these, it was just overpowering. To drive in traffic, it was almost impossible. And within 5 minutes, you had no left leg. You couldn't push the clutch down. What's the point? What's all that about? Anyway, moving on. So then the 355, the 2.7, and then I bought a 964, and I sent it to Roof.
Okay.
And I had it done at the Roof, did everything on the car. Oh, man. What a car.
Was that in Germany, sent it back?
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. Just what a car, and what that Alio Roof did. What a lovely man. And I drove it there. We were doing a trip to Nürburgring, so we did the Nürburgring for 3 days, and then I drove it down to Schaffenhausen, whatever it was, in southern Germany, down to the Roof factory. It wasn't really a factory, just like a small place where they service cars and that. What a lovely bloke, though. And what they did on this car was just mega. And then their test driver took me out for a demo drive in the car. I said, "This is what," and with a proper car, a 964 mine was going to be that car, and wow,
Wow.
yeah. And anyway, so end of this. So yeah, that was probably and the modern cars now. I have a 911 right now, 997. I have a Porsche Macan, 3-litre diesel. But what they've done to the ride and handling of that car is quite incredible. And what a great car, an everyday car that is. Porsche Macan, like spot on. But it's got the proper suspension on it, the PSM, whatever they call it, PASM, whatever the abbreviation is. But yeah, what a stunning car that is as an everyday driver. Love it. I absolutely love it. And so I'm not one for what would be the ultimate car if I could buy? Probably that 355, I think.
Really?
I'd like that back. Yeah, I'd like that car back because I just loved that car. The sound it made, the way it delivered things for me as a driver. When I bought my first Ferrari, a 246 Dino, for $4,000. Can you imagine that? That's how long ago that was.
I wish.
A set of tyres.
Yeah. That for $4,000.
Wow.
And I can remember I went down there was Sussex Sports Cars, and I went down to look at a 2.7 Carrera RS.
Yeah.
And I took that car for a drive, and it was a lovely car. And right in the corner, I had this ice blue Dino 246, and I just said, "I really like the look of those." I said, "You don't want that. You don't want that car, Paul." And because he said that, I said, hold on a minute. He said, no, if you're a Porsche guy, this is the car to have. You don't want that over there. And he said to me, it's not MOT, you can't go for demo driving it. So I just said to him, can you pull it out? Because I'd gone down to Sussex to have a look at this Carrera. And he started this car up, and there was all the blue smoke coming out of the back of it, you know. I just thought I should just walk from this, but I didn't. Anyway, I can always remember the thing on Bangers and Cash where there's all the blue smoke coming out the back of the car. It says, oh, it's just condensation. Just brilliant it was. Anyway, I bought that Dino because it broke down coming up the A1, taking it back home, didn't it? Mm-hmm. And he said to me, it's a love-hate relationship, Paul. The old Ferrari is a love-hate relationship. And it broke down, and I'd known a bit about mechanicking, you know, kind of thing. I got my head into, you know, how things work on a car, that kind of spot. And it was like 8:30 on a Saturday night when I put this car up in the hard shoulder on the bloody A1, and suddenly this guy came up behind me in a Lada Riva with 4 spotlights on the front of it. And he'd like switched these lights on, and like it was like Blackpool illuminations, you know. He says to me, "What's your trouble, lad?" I said, I'm thinking like, Lada, Ferrari, anyway, whatever. He says to me, I'm the Good Samaritan. I go up and down the A1 on a weekend helping people like you, thinking, this guy for real? And he was for real.
Really?
Yeah. And he said to me, here, I've got a little torch here. I said, all I've got in there is a handbook and a little torch in the glove box. That's all I had. And it's right, we lifted the rear up. And right on the bulkhead, the far bulkhead, there was 2 coils. I'm thinking, why has this car got 2 coils? Mm-hmm. I'm looking at one's a 12 volt, one's a 9 volt. And I'm thinking to myself, I said to him, hey, am I right in thinking? He said, you're on electronic ignition with the 9 volt coil, or the other way around, I can't remember now, a long time ago. And he said to me, I reckon if you lifted the distributor cap off, you'll have electronic points moving backwards and forwards, whatever they call it. Anyway, lifted off, yeah, sure enough. He said to me, if you change the leads to the 12 volt coil, you'll be back on normal plugs and points. Really? Yeah. So we changed the leads over, and the bloody car fired up. Whoa! Awesome. And that was my first initiation of a Ferrari 246 But I kept that car, and would it start in the morning? Not sure. and just as the guy said, total love-hate relationship. But you get back to a Porsche, and it's like, you know, yes. Everything's just right for me, you know, as a driver. But anyway, whatever. But yeah, great times, great happy memories, really, when you think about it, you know. And I sold that Dino for 10 grand. Suddenly, I bought it for 4 grand. In 8 months' time, it was 10 grand. And I bought a 308 GTB for. He gave me 10 grand for the Dino, and he wanted 10 grand for this 308 GTB. So I bought that, sold that in a year for 21 grand. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking to myself, hold on a minute. This don't happen to people like me, you know. I'm making money on cars. How come, you know? But of course, look at the values now and what they're worth. You know, that Dino's probably 350 grand. You know, but what a beautiful looking car. And the same with E-types. You know, I had a plethora of E-types as well. You know, back in the day, and I owned a 3.8 E-type Roadster, flat floor, one of the side handle things. It's one of the first 500, I think it was. Can't remember the chassis number, but I mean, in its day, 1961, that car came out. I mean, just incredible piece of engineering. You know, we're now working for you know, I shouldn't be saying that really, but anyway, sorry about that. And but you know what goes on inside these factories, and the ride and handling teams and the development drivers and test drivers, it's just so magical. And I can't stop it.
No, it's yeah, like I say, it's good to be doing something that you're passionate about, and that's what life is all about.
Not work, Mark. It's not work, is it? You know.
We have a tradition on the podcast usually, which is to ask for somebody's dream 3-car garage. But with somebody with such a colourful car history, that might be quite difficult to ask, especially I guess when one of them might probably be the 355 that you just mentioned. But if you were going to have as of now, a dream 3-car garage, do you know what it would be?
I'd have that 355 back.
Yeah.
Manual Nürburgring pack.
It's out there somewhere, I take it.
It is out there somewhere, yeah. Okay. I got into motorcycles as well. I had a Senna 2 Ducati 916. Awesome bike. Scared myself. Really scared myself on that machine.
Yeah.
So I just like stopped riding. People just didn't see you. It'd have to be a 911 in there somewhere. I do like 993s. I do like 964s. The 997 is a different car entirely, but it's probably one of the last digital cars.
Yeah.
If that's the correct terminology, for a car. I had a 991. I went back to a 997. I've not driven a 992 yet, but they are getting a fair bit bigger, a fair bit taller, a fair bit longer, and I think that's why the markets just dial that into that what Porsche need to supply to these people. So the purist, the 964s, 911s, that kind of thing, the 3.2 Carreras, that was like very much an enthusiast market, but now it's a global brand. The Macans, the Cayennes, Cayenne, and how do they? I've had a Cayenne as well. I mean, once again, the ride and handling of that car, you could really hustle that car along a B road. It's just really quite impressive. And you sat up here, and once again with the PASM suspension on it, just a dynamic piece of kit. And I'm not like, I've got to have a sports car. I've got to have a sports car, that's me as a guy and that's what I do and, this kind of thing. It's any car, because I get people just turn up at my door with any car and I've got to generally give a demonstration drive in that car.
Yep.
Without a doubt. And the most difficult car probably ever was a 928S manual with the clutch throw on it like this big. And he said the clutch's bright point's right at the top. And it was like to change gear.
Yeah.
And he had to push it right to the floor for it to release the gear. It was an absolute monster to drive. And he said, it's not very good, is it? I said to him, no, it's not very good. It just needs some little bit of tidying on it, sort of thing, But I mean, every day was a different car. And when you're given a demo drive, they're looking for perfection. They're never going to get that, of course, because we're just not that good. But I want to be a 9.5 guy. I'm not interested in 8.75. No interest in that whatsoever. I want to give him the drive of a life so he can take that away as an end skill. That's the reason why we do it, so he can see an end skill in play. And I want to drive like him. It might take you years, but diligent practice. Every time you get in that car, diligent practice to be as good as you can be and be the best driver around and put safety into that equation, because that's, at the end of the day, you think about it, that's the only thing that really counts.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
So you've got, just to recap, so you've got your Ferrari 355 manual, a Porsche 911 manual.
Yeah.
What was the third one? Was it a Cayenne?
No, nothing. It's not as good as that. No, I think at the end of the day, going back once again several years.
A Lada with some lights on it.
Lada with some lights on it. Yeah, he was a lifesaver, I can tell you that guy. I think, I'd like to get my backside into a 991 GT2 RS. A friend of mine's got one, and it's the most ballistic car I think I've ever been in my life. And this guy can drive like you won't believe. And I just sit next to him, and he says to me, come on, give me a bit of training, Paul, We're really close friends. And he's got this, he's got a plethora of 911s, probably about, 10, 12 million quid's worth of cars. They're nearly all Porsche. And he's got one of the, he's got like 4 of these special cars. And I remember him ringing me up 4 million years ago saying, I'm just about to buy this 911, whatever it was, and it's, what did he say, 89 grand. I said, God, that's a lot of money, man. He went, I just got to have it. Okay, you've got 3. Yeah, forget that, I want 4. Okay, fine. And he bought that car. He's just turned down 4 million for that car. I mean,
wow.
That's anyway, cut story. This 991 GT2 RS, what a car. It might be a bit OTT look-wise. I'm not the big one for the big things on the back, the wings on the back and stuff like that. I prefer very low-key. And the 911 for me, it can be narrow-bodied, C2 manual. I'm happy with it, with the roof in it. I'm a happy bunny. But I could put like 50, 60, 100 cars into that plethora of like best 3 cars.
Yeah,
Is there
yeah,
such a,
yeah.
Is there such a
It's
thing?
a difficult question.
But you know, one of the great cars, and I had 2 or 3 of these, was if they ever started, if they ever went, was the Mark 1 Escort twin cam. Mm-hmm. What a great in its day, that was a mega car. And they used to live quite near the Tates of Leeds. They used to have the Ford dealership. And when that car came out, was it 68, 67, something like that, ballpark? He had a twin cam in. Oh, and it just really turned me on. A Lotus twin cam in the engine bay. Whoa. I mean, in today's terms, you know, there used to be a dual carriageway up a hill in Leeds. And in my Lotus Cortina, could do 60 up there. Now, the 911 will probably do 120 up there. So it's all relative. But it's just the raw bones of driving that I really like. And it's like a respect. So fast cars, damp roads, respect. Love it. Bring it on. and you know, that's what it's about. And it's having that passion with the cars, but to make the people driving the cars safer with them. And that can also become part of the reason why they've got them, because I want to be a better driver. And the capabilities of them now are just like unbelievable. Unbelievable. Okay, let's get it on the track. Okay, let's get it on the proving ground. Let me learn more about myself as a driver and what this car does when I do something over the top with it. Great. What more would you want in life?
No, I agree. And you mentioned about the how good at the time the Ford Escort was. Yeah. And I find it partly quite sad, because I mentioned on a previous podcast that I came from a bit of a Ford family, and I kind of through my sort of car ownership journey, that's kind of gone and run in parallel with kind of the death of, I would say, Ford and the likes being the pinnacle of what a hot hatch is. Yeah. Audi and BMW and the likes have come in, and I guess
and Volkswagen
and Volkswagen as well. Yeah, they've partially come and I guess invented what you'd class as the hyper hatch, but it's really, in a sense, it's kind of taken the shine off. Like when I was 17 and the Focus RS, I don't know what mark it was. I think probably Mark II, but the lime green one. They started with the orange ST, which everyone knew about, and then the lime green Focus RS came out, and that was like, when I just passed my test, it was like, that was, you couldn't aim for anything better. That was like the car to get. And now really the German brands in particular have come in and really taken the crown, and the fast Fords aren't as desirable, I think, as they once was. But I think
it's a generational thing as well. It's obviously, you mentioned the Lotus Cortina at the time. That was kind of like, we didn't have hatchback cars at the time. That was obviously mid-sized saloon cars to some degree, but it was the car to have at the time. Yes. And still now there's a lot of respect and love for the Lotus Cortina.
I mean, funny, when I went to buy that car, it was actually a Ford dealership, and there was a Ford 1600E in there. And this guy says to me, "You don't want that, you want this." And somebody telling me that, no, sorry, I want the Lotus. Yeah, right. I don't want the 1600E. And he said to me, a lot more A to B possibilities with this car than this car. Sorry, I wanted this car.
I'm not going to be, I'm going to see.
Yeah. And I wasn't having it. And this Lotus Cortina. And I can remember, really quite a young lad, very much a young lad, the insurance, I just bought my first house. The insurance on that car, there was a one was it Cloverdale or somebody? I can't remember. That the insurance on the car, the monthly payments on the insurance was more than the mortgage on the house.
That's the right way to do it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Definitely the right way to do it.
You know what I mean? But that was I don't know, that was that I want that car. And then when I wrote the car off, and this what kicked everything off for me. That police officer come to see me. Come down to the open night in a skid pan. Oh my God.
That's where it all started.
That's the way it should be.
But why did it cost me? I mean, I really nearly killed myself. You know, why did it get me to that point where I nearly killed myself to wake up and smell the coffee boy? You know what I mean? Hello, excuse me, knock knock. You can get killed here.
So the takeaway message is: get yourself on the skid pan now, not later.
I don't know about skid pan because there's been there's been revolutions after that called the skid car, which is the Scandinavian skid car with the little stabilisers on it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I had two at Elvington. I bought myself a skid car because I used to go sit in it for 3 hours a day, just learning. This is just me.
Yeah.
Just learning, power oversteer, downhill on ice, where you have no grip on the tarmac whatsoever. And you're going at 30, 40 miles an hour, and you have no grip, and the car's just like revolving round you, but you can't do anything. You're putting lock on, there's nothing happening because everything's off the ground. Just like, and it simulates black ice.
Yeah.
Scary situation. But anybody ever been in that, and a lot of people have been in that, especially the rally boys. I mean, some of the skills these rally boys have is just incredible.
Oh, I see some of the videos. They're crazy.
Just amazing.
Crazy.
How... And who the greatest skilled drivers of them all, I don't know. All I know is that potentially one of the most difficult things is the road driving to get that spot on, to get that up, get that into the case. Rally drivers, a whole new ball game. I mean, I went to Bill Gwyn's in Wales quite a few times because I wanted to know rear-wheel drive, loose surface, bring it on. I think it was was it a Mark II Escort? Can't remember. But unbelievably great times. And that control, no matter what the grip was, you had it all going on and that kind of thing. And I love that. And then this Mike Franey guy, on the proving grounds. So because it took my level of skills to a completely different space where I'd never been. So I want, if I'm going to be, my trade became a approved driving instructor so I could train test drivers. That's what the ultimate goal was. But that goal was achievable because there was no one else doing it. And that's why I did all these things to do. But even now, I'm exactly the same. Now I'll drive home from here, right, best drive I've ever given. It doesn't ever stop. And the revolving ball keeps going over. But it's having that passion for the cars, having great cars. Get to know more about them. Go on a course. Take them on a proving ground. Take them on a track. And not get out of your comfort zone is probably the wrong saying, but new experiences give you more. So you can enjoy that car more. You can get more out of that car.
Absolutely.
Get more out of yourself.
Yep.
Do it. Just do it.
Absolutely.
Just do it.
That's a different brand altogether.
Well, on that note, anyway, for all of our listeners, like we've said earlier in the podcast, you can never be the perfect driver. You never will be. But you can always be better than you were yesterday.
Indeed.
So if you are looking to improve your driving, is it your website's drivingmasters.uk?
Correct,
I think,
Mark, yeah.
drivingmasters.uk.
Yeah.
Also find them on all the social channels and LinkedIn as well. I know you're quite active on LinkedIn as well. And get yourself booked onto something and learn more about you as a driver and your car as well. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Totally my pleasure,
Really
Mark.
appreciate it.
Totally my pleasure, Sean.
Great to have you.
Thank you. And thank you to the Motorist for being our venue hosts again. And we'll see you on the next one.
Looking for your next car event, club, or venue? Find it with carevents.com. Discover thousands of upcoming events, car clubs, and car venues on the world's biggest car events platform. Search by location and radius, favorite your events, buy event tickets with these, and follow your favorite clubs and venues to be the first to hear about their upcoming events. For event organizers, you can list events, clubs, and venues free of charge, sell tickets directly in the app, and track the performance of your event. Available online and in your app store. Just search Car Events.